approaching the City Council now is AFL-CIO President
Hello,
Lord Ramsey. Now shaking hands
Hey,
with
Mr. Ramsey, I
Mr.
spoke
Kelly,
to you earlier.
Mayor Davis, Commissioner Cates.
Gentlemen, I asked for the opportunity to
This
appear
is Mr.
before this
Ramsey.
council meeting to discuss a very serious problem now confronted by the city of Jackson.
Thank you.
And that, of course, is the fact that you have a rather large group of city employees currently on strike. I'm going to pass this material out because I'm going to be referring to that. First thing I want to do is to take up the legality of the situation as to whether or not the city of Jackson can legally recognize a union for the purpose of collective bargaining. Now, the letter that I just passed out to you, gentlemen, is a copy of a letter to a member of the Moss Point City Council by Assistant Attorney General W.D. Coleman, which clearly establishes the fact that a municipality in Mississippi does have the legal right to act in this direction if it so desires. Now, I would call your attentions to the fact that the Mississippi legislature during the last session refused to pass a law, Senate Bill 1883, that would have prohibited strikes by public employees. And I'd like to leave a copy of that bill with you, Mayor. I'm sure you've seen it. And I might say here that in my opinion, a great majority of members of both houses of the legislature are against this type of legislation. When this bill was under consideration on the floor of the Senate, a number of senators got up and opposed the bill and made mention of the fact that they felt the state and city employees in Mississippi should be given the same consideration as those employees in the private sector. Now, what we're going to suggest to you here this afternoon is a sincere effort to resolve the problem. And if you will take our recommendations here this afternoon and act accordingly, then myself and a number of other labor people who are sitting in this room will take it upon ourselves to see that the garbage is picked up tomorrow morning in the city of Jackson. In order to do that, you've got to take some action. And we're going to suggest this to you, that you follow the same course of action that was followed by the city officials in the city of Pascagoula about 3 or 4 years ago. I was called into Pascagoula because the city employees of that town were out on strike. They had no union representative in town. I met with those people to make a determination as whether they wanted to be represented by a union for the purpose of collective bargaining. By secret ballot, they voted 100% that they did. I then approached the city of Pascagoula and made them a proposition, which I'm going to make to you here this afternoon, that if city council would formally recognize the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees as the bargaining agent for their city employees, if they would agree to recognize the union, that I in turn would approach these people about the possibility of returning to their jobs while bargaining proceeded. Well, I won't go into all the details of this with you, but the city council agreed to this course of action. We approached the city employees and they in turn agreed that they would return to work while negotiations continued. And needless to say, that an agreement was reached and that they are now represented by the same union that now represents these people that are out on strike today. I'd like to read to you a quote from the Pascagoula Agreement, 2 simple paragraphs. Article 1, purpose of the agreement. Section 1. It is the purpose of this agreement to promote and ensure harmonious relations cooperation and understanding between the city and the employees covered hereby to ensure true collective bargaining and to establish proper standards of wages, hours, working conditions, and other conditions of employment. Article 2, Section 1A, Union Recognition. The city recognizes the union as the sole and exclusive collective bargaining agent of the employees covered by this agreement for the purpose of collective bargaining with respect to rates of pay, wages, hours of employment, and other conditions of employment. Gentlemen, our recommendation to you here this afternoon is simply this, that if this city council will agree to recognize Local 1888 of the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees Union, AFL-CIO, as outlined in the Pascagoula Agreement, if you will hire someone who is experienced in collective bargaining, and I think this is what you're eventually going to have to do, because you gentlemen don't have the time and you don't have the experience in this area. I would recommend that you hire someone who is experienced in this area of management relations, and there's a number of law firms in the city of Jackson that practice in this field, and we can tell you who they are if you would like to know, but I'd prefer you find it out for yourself. We would strongly recommend now that you engage the services of one of these attorneys, and that that man be instructed to begin meeting immediately with the union's bargaining committee, that they draft a proposal, that it be brought back to you. This includes the whole ball of wax, everything, for your approval, which of course it would then have to also be approved by the union. We're simply telling you here this afternoon that if you take this course of action, as they took in Pascagoula, then we think that the garbage can be picked up in this town right away. Now, I want to make it clear here, gentlemen, this afternoon, that we're not asking for anything more for the city employees than we have in the private sector. We have a number of union representatives present here this afternoon, and I'm going to ask each and every one of them to tell you who they represent and what their position is. But before I do that, I want to tell you this. You've got two routes to follow in the situation that you're confronted with. One of them's a short route, and the other one's a long route. Now, the city of Memphis decided they wanted to take the long route. And you know what happened in the city of Memphis. My recommendation here this afternoon is the short route. You can have the city employees back on the job in the morning if you follow my recommendations. I'll do my best to see that they report to work. And I would suggest to you that you not delay this thing too long, because they might not abide by our recommendations if it's drug along too long. Tempers are going to flare, patience is going to wear out, and they might insist on the whole package before they return to work. That's the money, security, and everything. There's one thing about this union agreement that you should realize, the city of Jackson should realize, you gentlemen. There are certain benefits to the city of Jackson tied in with a union contract. When you negotiate a union contract on behalf of these people, you will have a clause in that contract that will assure you of a continuous operation. You'll have a grievance procedure in it, whereby grievances would be resolved as arbitration as the final resort. There'd be no strikes during the life of this agreement. That's pretty well standard procedure as far as organized labor is concerned in the Jackson area. That's one of the things that you'll get out. Now, we have with us several people, as I mentioned, and I'm going to ask the president of the Jackson Central Labor Union at this time to come forward and make a short statement. Then there's several other people that I'll ask to do the same thing. And I'd like for you to allow me to finish our presentation, and then we'll have a question and answer session, Mayor, if you desire. Mr. Johnson? Mayor, Mr. Cates, Kevin.
As president of the Jackson Central Labor Union, it's my responsibility and my duty to help assist in any way that I can with any other organization which is trying to get into the AFL-CIO. The AFL-CIO directly, when I say this, is we are chartered directly by the National AFL-CIO. We are affiliated with Claude Ramsey, of course, in the sense that we are still labor, but we are chartered by the National AFL-CIO. I am a member of the Communication Workers of America and have been working here in Jackson a number of 20-something years. At that time, I have been with unions and have worked with unions and have worked with them, this particular group. As you gentlemen recall, before you were elected, I talked to you people, all three of you people, about the election of these people. And I persuade you now to do as Claude has asked you to do, to think this thing out and consider it. If you can see where you can, decide to sit down and negotiate with these people. Because the Jackson Central Labor Union, we're going to support these people in every way we can, both the firemen and the sanitation people. Thank you.
Thank you, George. I want to say here, gentlemen, that we are talking about both groups here this afternoon, and we're not just talking about recognition and bargaining with the group that's out on strike. You remember when we were down here about a year ago that we made the same statement? So this afternoon, we're actually suggesting that you do the same thing with the Firemen's Union, that you negotiate an agreement with the Firemen's Union along the lines that has already been negotiated in the city of Pascagoula. We're not asking you to do anything new. We're simply asking you to follow the same procedure that has been followed in several other towns in Mississippi. We've got unions of employees in Natchez are organized under contract. Employees in Moss Point and Pascagoula are organized and under contract, and I just read you the recognition clause. We want you to do the same thing for the firemen. These gentlemen have been organized for over 50 years, and they've never been recognized and never been bargained with. And gentlemen, I'm telling you, I'm not threatening you with a strike on the part of firemen, but it has happened in this nation, and there's a possibility if this type thing continues on that you might be faced with this kind of a situation as well. Now, we have with us this afternoon Mr. Raymond Oliver, who most of you gentlemen have met, who is the Vice President of the Firemen's Union, and I'd like for him to say a word or two at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey, Mr. Mayor, and gentlemen of the council. I'm Raymond Oliver. I represent the International Association of Firefighters from a 5-state area: Arkansas, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee. Collective bargaining is nothing new to us anymore. It was up to 2 years ago unheard of as far as the firefighters unions was concerned. But for 50 years we worked with our Constitution with a no strike clause in it. And when we tried to enter into collective bargaining with our municipalities, the municipalities was quick to catch on to it and beat us over the head with our own Constitution, saying you cannot do anything if we don't bargain with you because you do not have the right to strike. We have that right now. As Mr. Ramsey pointed out, your own legislature here in the state of Mississippi refused to adopt legislation in our last session here prohibiting strikes among public employees. Surely, gentlemen, you don't want a Memphis, Tennessee here. I was all through that in Memphis, Tennessee. I helped negotiate the contract in Pascagoula and other contracts. Now, Memphis has gone on record since all the trouble and adopted an ordinance setting up a labor policy to deal with labor. Most of our municipalities are reluctant to dealing with unions because they do not think they have the power, the right to do it. I pointed out in my last appearance here in this council, you have the right to set policy. These are your employees. And there's no reason why that we should be condemned because we are union. If we choose to go the union route, that should be our privileges. You belong, gentlemen, to the League of Municipalities to better your own lot. This Bar Association, Medical Association, District Attorneys Associations, Tax Assessors, Clerk of Courts, Sheriff's Association, They're all in there to bargain and to better their own lots, to go into the legislature or any other way to do it. Because we choose a union route, we are the bad boys. We want to work with you. We beg you to let us work with you. We want to do the right thing, and we will do the right thing. But you've got to help us. If we go into the halls of the legislature and try to pass something here on Capitol Hill, you scream bloody murder that we are doing away with home rule. Well, home rule is a two-way street, and it's a poor rule that won't work two ways. So we asking you today, I read in the local paper where 11 firms had offered their help with their employees to come in and pick up this. I don't think that you want to inject the business people here in the city of Jackson into this strike. I think it would be wrong for them. I don't think that the game do it. So I'm going to close with saying this, that I'll do anything to work with you gentlemen to bring this thing to a close. As Mr. Ramsey said, I'll stay here in Jackson with you as long as it's needed to get these people back on the job. I know what union representation is, and I'm going to close by saying unions are here to stay, and you're not going to blot us out. We're here to stay. If there's any questions, I'll be very happy to answer, but I ask you to cooperate and go along with the recommendations made by Mr. Ramsey. Thank you, gentlemen.
We're going to try to take just as little time as possible, but I did want to introduce some of the people we got present and let them tell you what their position is. And before I do that, let me say that we would have had a larger turnout here this afternoon, but the building trades unions in the Jackson area are trying to meet a deadline right now. They're in negotiations with the Contractors Association and could not be here. But John Erickson, the president of the Building Trades Group, told me to advise you gentlemen that they were behind our proposition 100%. Now we got Bill Stanley here, the state director of CWA. Bill, you want to?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'm W.O. Stanley, Mississippi Director for the Communications Workers of America. I'm privileged to represent some 2,000 employees of the telephone company who live in the city of Jackson, including Commissioner Kelly's wife. And I'd like to go on record of urging you gentlemen to give serious and favorable consideration to Claude's proposition to you because of the dilemma you now have. The right to organize is basic. We as citizens of this country live in an organized society today. We've come out of the days when unions were considered as something underhanded, illegitimate. We're now legitimate. Your employees have got problems. The best way for them to handle their problems with you, as I view it, is through organization, a legitimate organization, such as they have formed. They obviously seek for you to recognize them, since there's no governmental mechanics for them to go through to seek an election. The only course they have is through reason and persuasion. They've tried reason and now they're trying persuasion. I'd like to urge you to give serious consideration, because the people that I represent telephone operators, girls who don't have transportation. They can't haul their garbage out. They can get a cab or a city bus to carry their groceries home, but they can't bundle up a plastic bag and hire a cab or take the city bus out to the dump for their garbage. And in closing, I'd like to urge you to give very strong and favorable consideration to Claude's recommendation. Thank you.
Let's see now, we got several different groups present. Rainey, would you like to make a statement? Rainey, you're on the business aid of the firefighters local. You want to just make it from there?
Yeah, Jenny Rainey, President of Mississippi Professional Firefighters. I believe Brother Oliver pretty well covered our situation adequately, and also Secretary of Treasury of the Jackson Firefighters Association.
You want to say something? Mr. Cullen, President of the Jackson CWA local.
As Mr. Stanley pointed out, we do have a real problem with a large amount of the female employees who live in and work in the downtown area with no transportation to be able to take the garbage out the park or the city dump. And I would urge you to recognize the city employees and try to move along with bargaining.
Thank you. Now let me see, we got about you, the President of Jackson Firefighters local.
I'm W.T. Woods, President of Jackson Firefighters Association, local number 87. I think Brother Oliver pretty well covered anything that I might say.
Thank you. You've already heard from Mr. Johnson, Jack Schaefer. Mr. Schaefer represents the employees of the Mississippi Power and Light Company. Mr. Schaefer.
Right, Local 605, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. This is not a new concern of ours. We have been aware of the problem for 8 to 10 months. We wholeheartedly support the position which President Ramsey has given the council this afternoon. And I would like to say just this in closing. I was very impressed with what the mayor had to say in the news conference yesterday along this line, that the city commission had to keep control of the things at hand. Every other service that they desire, if they don't have it at their discretion, they contract for it. What could be more appropriate for assurance of service than a contract with these people who have expressed 100% of their desire to be represented by this group of organized labor? Thank you.
Now, do we have anyone still here from the Trailway Bus people? They had to leave us. I wanted you to hear from these gentlemen, especially gentlemen, because they represent people that provide services similar to the services provided by your employees. They actually work in the public sector. Lights, telephone service, and I wanted you to hear from one of the bus drivers that they had to leave. Now, we got several other people present. We got Fitzhugh with the MPI local. Are you going to speak, or you want Woodson? Johnny Horn from out at Presto, the local union in Presto. Johnny, would you like to say something from where you are? Go ahead and stand up and.
My name is Charlie Horn. I'm Vice President of IBEW Local 2262, and we wholeheartedly support any organized labor.
Bob Woodson with the Carpenters local out at MPI.
Robert Woodson was Carpenters local at MPI. To Mayor Davis and Commissioners Kelly and Cates, I want you to know that we wholeheartedly support the city employees' peaceful effort to gain union recognition. And we do respectfully request that you grant this union recognition, commence negotiations, and conclude a acceptable agreement so that this thing can get over.
Thank you, Bob. Dan Orey with the AFL-CIO staff, I'm going to pass over you for the time being. Let's see, I want to get all these local union presidents. We got Mr. Doolittle with the Carpenters Council. Now, would you like to say something, Mr. Doolittle?
I'm Floyd Doolittle, Executive Secretary of the Southern Council of Lumber and Plywood Workers, Brotherhood of Carpenters. I would like to say to the mayor and the commissioners that the employees of the city of Jackson is not asking you to do anything for them that other cities in the jurisdiction that my council covers hasn't already done. And I concur in the recommendation that President Ramsey has made to you, and I would like to state also that we support these people 100% in their efforts.
And we got, let's see, we got a gentleman from IUE. Have y'all decided who's going to speak?
I'm Howard Cersei, I'm the recording secretary.
This is the Vectors Group.
Local 792, and I support Mr. Ramsey's recommendation, and I'd like to see this resolved, Senate Bill.
You want your garbage picked up? Might say, gentlemen, these people, most all of them live in Jackson, and for the sake of the record and the press especially, I live in Jackson. I've been living here for 5 years. You've been having me in Pascagoula about all your stories. I've been here 5.5 years. Now, have I missed anybody from any local unit? Anybody? Dan, you wanna say a couple of words? All right. Now, we got another gentleman present that I'd like to introduce to you. Mr. Bill Moore, Mr. W.S. Moore, most of you know, I think. Mr. Moore is the attorney representing these people. Mr. Moore, would you like to have a brief comment?
I don't believe so.
You do know some people that can represent that represent management people that might be interested in a job, right?
Right.
Negotiating for the city?
I wouldn't dare condemn them by mentioning their names.
No, I'm sure you wouldn't do that. We'll let them find that out.
But I do know this, this is not a thing for courts and it's not a thing
Yeah.
for lawyers, it's a question of bargainers.
Right.
And there are experienced ones on both sides, and I highly recommend that you hire somebody and recognize this union so we can get our garbage picked up right away.
Right. Now, Mr. Oliver just reminded me that the Congress is considering legislation that would more or less compel cities to deal with unions of this kind, and if it might be to your advantage right now to go ahead and do this rather than be forced into doing it by a federal statute. Now, I've got a little booklet here, the only one I want to leave with you gentlemen. We have the American Arbitration Association has established the National Center for Dispute Settlement for the National Center for Dispute Settlement of Public Employees. We have two gentlemen in this town that are members of this panel. One of them is Sam Nicholas, who is a professor out at Millsaps College, and another one is Mr. Reuben Anderson, who I understand you gentlemen already know. I would suggest that if you want to try to find a route other than one, maybe you might want to explore this and arriving at a settlement to this thing, that you might consider the possibility of making this service available. Maybe I'll leave that with you. I can advise you how to get in touch with these people if you would like me to help you. Gentlemen, I hope that this is the last time that I have to appear before this council meeting to discuss this subject. I'd suggest to you that time is of the essence, that we need to move and get this dispute settled as soon as possible, that you not go the long route. We have sincerely suggested to you a method that we think that you can reach a settlement and get this thing out of the way in the very near future. Now, if any of you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them, or if I can't, we'll find somebody that can.
Well, I have one or two.
All right, Mayor.
Now, it seems that in everything you have said, that before you get to the point that you're talking about bargaining or negotiating, you first have to recognize the union.
Right.
This is necessary.
Right.
All right. One of the gentlemen that you presented there made this statement in his talk, referring to the city officials who are elected to carry out the wishes of the people of
Right.
this city. He said, and I quote, "We have the right to set the policy.
Right.
These are your employees."
Right.
Well, do you not agree that just as soon as the city recognizes a union, we give up at least a substantial part of our right to set the policy?
No, sir, I don't think so. No more than the management at Vickers does, more than the management at South Central Bell does, no more than the management at the Power and Light Company does.
Well, we have a difference of
We're
opinion.
not interested in this. These people are not interested in running the city of Jackson. They'll still be under your direction, under the supervision of the people. They'll simply have a method of dealing with problems. They'll have a grievance procedure to resolve grievances, just like the private sector. We're not asking for anything more for the city employees than that these people here already have.
Well, we have a difference of opinion on that.
Yes, I realize that. It's the reason we're here this afternoon.
it
Recently
seems-
out on the street too, I might say.
It seems to me that just as soon as any city or any governmental agency does recognize a union, that they give up at least a part of their right to set the policy, a part of their responsibility to which they were elected. Now, let me ask you another question. You know that this strike was called at a time when the council had agreed to discuss the question of that had been brought before the council with this booklet of demands, both from the fire department, since the fire department's here, and from the people who work by the day. Do you know how much money is involved in these, in the
package?
In the fire department package?
I haven't examined the package of either group too carefully, but I realize that there is some money involved, and that you might have to scratch around to come up with enough money to provide these people with the wage increases that they are justly deserving of. I haven't got into the firefighter situation and compared their rates of pay with cities of this size, but I do know that their rates are considerably lower in most of the other towns. I do know that the wages paid to the city employees that we're talking about now is the lowest that you can find most anywhere. And that many of them...
We'll get to that in just a minute now.
And many of them, in order to subsist, to live, are having to get on the food stamp program, and I think this is a darn disgrace.